Hi everybody. So I waited a while to make this video, but I've had these for about 2 months, so it's just time. So of course I'm talking about the Dynaudio Evoke 20s behind me. So these are them. Give you a close-up, and I did a separate unboxing video, so you can check that out to see specifically how they're packaged and how they come to you. So the Evoke 20s are a two-way bookshelf speaker. They have a 7-inch driver, 6.5-inch driver, and then they also, of course, have a tweeter. There are a lot of other channels that do audio reviews for a living. I'm going to talk about them as a person who bought them for his garage and is not an audiophile, although I do like audio equipment and I do like music, and I like bringing music into situations to make them more enjoyable. So I spent the weekend polishing my Mini with these cranked, and they sound unbelievable. So the Evoke 20s are available in 4 different finishes. I chose the blonde wood. They're also available in walnut, black, and white. I really do like the blonde wood cabinets. They're very handsome. The grain is 3-dimensional, like you can feel the grain. They're an actual piece of wood. The binding posts are really nice. They do have a grill. I don't use the grill. The grill is fine. It stays on there. It's magnetic. They're packaged really well. You can see my unboxing video for information on that. If you're specifically concerned about that, I'll post a link in the description. But let's talk about how they sound and what really surprised me the most about them. So these are unbelievably loud and clear, but they need some power behind them. That's one of the things that I'm learning with them. So previous to these, I had some Emotiva B1 pluses in my garage. Those are a 5.25-inch speaker. They're a little bit smaller. And those sounded good. They just weren't incredibly loud. And when you did get them loud, they lost some composure and they started to distort, and they just weren't that great anymore. So the Evokes, I tried these with the Emotiva A100 amplifier that I was originally using, which is only 50 watts by 2. And then I went up from there to an Emotiva A2, which is, I believe, 150 by 2. And that transformed them quite a bit. That amplifier was from my living room, so I put that back in my living room, and I actually ordered a Schiit Vidar to run this system. So you'll see my Vidar is up here. You see the old A100 sitting above it. That's not running the speakers right now. So the Schiit Vidar it's 100 by 2 at 8 ohms. It's 200 by 2 at 4 ohms. It stands to reason that it's about 150 by 2 at 6 ohms, which are what these speakers are. For a source, I'm using the Bluesound Node, which you can see right there. And I'm streaming some, this is duty-free YouTube, fine, okay music. So what do I like about these? Well, they're incredibly loud and clear. They're built very well. The cabinets are very handsome. They pass, the wife acceptance factor is incredibly high on these. She likes them quite a bit, how they look actually. The sound is very neutral. It's very smooth. They do have silk dome tweeters, so I find that they're not harsh or fatiguing when I'm listening to them for hours and hours and hours on end. I'm not sick of them by the end of the day. I can just continue listening to them for a long time, and they just continue to sound loud and clear and be pleasurable for me to listen to. So they don't have that, you know, kind of decaying effect that a metallic tweeter would often have. I think the package is really good. I think that they were packed really well. I think that the hardware is very nice. Like, for example, they have the front where you can't see any screws. Everything is hidden behind the covers. But on the back, the 5-way binding posts are very nice, and they're definitely a higher quality material. And I don't have the step down, the emits, to compare these to, but I do have a pair of LYD5s, and I can say from a fit and finish perspective, these are just a step above. They have the hidden hardware, they have the magnetic grills, they have the, you know, the binding posts on the back that are really nice, and they are a solid piece of wood instead of like a vinyl wrapped cabinet. So now we kind of get into the, are these overkill? And the answer is probably. They're probably overkill for your garage. But if you're at the level where you've got, I've got $5,000 in lighting and $5,000 in Swiss Trax flooring and thousands of dollars in cabinets and a lift and all of this stuff, like, why wouldn't you want something that is a little overkill? All of this stuff is. This Cree lighting that I have over my head is designed for, shops and showrooms. My cabinets are designed for the aviation industry to use in their shops. So these are at that level. They're not, in my opinion, excessive. They're not getting into the $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 pair of speakers territory where you're getting into, Dynaudio Contour, Heritage Special, or, something from another brand. They are still in the reasonable land. Now, could an Emit 20 do what these do significantly less expensively? Probably. The LYD 8s would also probably be a good option. The LYD 5s are about $1,000 a pair. These are about $2,000 a pair. I think the 8s are like in the middle. They're like $1,500 for the pair. Don't quote me on that. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in checking out the LYD 8s. Those have the ability to be less expensive because they have a built-in amplifier, but they also have less flexibility than a setup like mine where I've got a Bluesound Node that can play Spotify and Tidal and Qbuzz and all of these other things. These are just remarkably good. They are one of the best sounding speakers without equalization, without adjustment that I've ever heard. Right now I have my Bluesound Node set to 0, like tone controls are off. I've got a raw power amplifier, that's what that Vidar is. It's just a class A/B 2-channel amplifier. And then I'm powering the speakers. I am doing no equalization, nothing whatsoever. The only thing that I'm doing is I have a subwoofer and it's crossed over at 80 Hertz. So anything above 80 goes to the speakers, anything below 80 goes to the subwoofers. Honestly, they sound good down to about 60 Hertz. Below 60 Hertz is where you start to hear distortion, especially at higher volumes. I normally cross over at 80 because that gives me some ability to push these speakers a little bit harder from a volume perspective, get them a little bit louder and not worry about, blowing something up because they're playing really low bass notes and they're distorting. It just gives me a little bit more headroom before distortion. So the thing that I found really surprising about these speakers, I'll tell you a little story. So in my living room, we decided recently that we were going to set up like a seating area. So we've got 2 chairs, they're like orange chairs with armrests, and a turntable and a pair of speakers on stands. And I started off with my B1 pluses that came out of here, and I put those on the stands, and we listened to them for a while, and I was running them actually with the same Schiit Vidar because I was trying to determine, do I really want this vinyl listening area? Do I not? What am I going to do here? So my wife and I were just sitting down in these chairs and we're listening to music, and I decided to come out here and I grabbed the Evokes, and I just kind of came in and I took the B1s off the stands while they were playing music. I just took one off, unplugged it, put the Evoke on, plugged it in. Took the other one off, unplugged it, put the Evoke on, plugged it in. And she's like messing around with her phone. She looks up and she's like, wow, those sound way better. She generally doesn't care at all about audio quality. To her, it's just music. It's music. It's either there or it's not. It's on or it's off. It's not a quality thing. But she really, really liked them. And we listened to them for a while, maybe another hour or two. And then I went and I took the Evokes off the stands and I replaced them with the B1 pluses again while it was still playing music, and we're at a reasonable volume, maybe a little bit louder than I'm talking right now. And she's like, no, those other ones sound way better. Okay. So she really liked the speakers, and she didn't dislike the B1 pluses until these speakers were suddenly on the stands. And I think that that's really the important part to understand. is these are really good speakers in a world that is full of really good speakers. And these might be better than things that are less expensive than them, or even some things that are very similar price to them. But for the average person, they're not really going to notice a difference unless they are able to directly compare the speakers to each other in an A to B fashion. Now, one thing that I will say is these look amazing. They're a work of art. They're beautiful. They're made out of solid wood. They've got fantastic corners and lines and actual wood grain. These are like your grandmother's curio cabinet that you want to take to your house just because it's a beautiful piece of craftsmanship. And I can't think of anything that is below them in terms of expense that is that way. So from the perspective of being very impressive, these are impressive. They look really, really good. Are they something that you need in your garage? Honestly, probably not. I mean, you could probably get by with something like an Emit 20 or an LYD8. It's going to be less expensive, but it would have similar performance and it would save you some money, because truthfully, do you need this beauty in your garage? Maybe not, but I mean, I can't help but look at them every single time I'm out here. They're just absolutely gorgeous. And my argument is that if you're at the level where you've invested 30, 40, 50, 80 grand in your garage, in flooring and lights and cabinets and tools and all of these other things, they are at that level. They are at the level that you don't think that I cheaped out, or that I should get something better, or that there is a better option that exists. They are incredibly good. And they are just like right at that line. They're just at that level where to get a marked improvement in performance, you're going to be spending twice as much money. Like they are really, really good. And I can't think of many speakers that I've heard under $5,000 that will give them a run for their money. They are just really good. And in terms of beauty, like it's a solid piece of wood. It's really good, like really good. So, based on that, I don't really think that the appearance could actually get better than it is. Maybe you could have, silver binding posts or something crazy like that somebody like me would notice, but the average human wouldn't. But they are just so good and so clean and so well made and just so beautiful to look at that I really can't want for anything more aesthetically. And they obviously make them in 4 finishes. This is the blonde wood. They make them in walnut and black and white. So you can find something that goes with just about anything. My LYDs are white. I actually really like the white. I probably wouldn't do black because in my opinion, it's too plain. If you're buying something like this at this level, I would get walnut or blonde 100% of the time, because you're going to get that actual wood grain and it's going to look really, really good. And I think black is just going to blend into the background. So what do you need to make these things effective? Well, you really need about 100 to 150 watts per channel, and you need a good source, something that's really good and really clear. Because if you don't have a good source, you're going to hear that in your speakers. Like when I connect these to the turntable, I can tell a distinct difference between that and streaming. And it's, the quality of the recording and the bit rate and the way in which the material was written originally. These speakers are very good at displaying what information is coming into them. So I'm personally using the Schiit Vidar. I think it's probably the best amplifier that you can get for under $1,000. That's 150 watts by 2, and that is Class AB. If you're okay with a Class D amplifier, the Emotiva A2 would probably be my pick. The A2 sounds really, really good. It's nice and clean and doesn't add any warmth or coloration to the music at all. The Vidar is a little bit on the warm side, in my opinion. And then the Bluesound Node, I think, is really the best source that you can get for under $1,000. But let's just be honest with ourselves. That Bluesound Node plus the Schiit Vidar plus these speakers, you're into the territory of $4,000 for an audio system in your garage. And that is not an insignificant amount of money. I understand that. You know, so if I was really looking for something where I could save some money but get very, very similar performance, I would do the LYD8s and I would connect them directly to the Bluesound Node. And I would not have the separate amplifier and I would not have the Evokes, I would have the LYDs instead, because I think that they're going to give you the performance with maybe 75% of the beauty. They're just not the, you know, these are a work of art where those are very well done, very well engineered, very well built, but they are not beautiful, if that makes sense. They're not unattractive, but they're just not beautiful. But the biggest thing for me is I'm actually contemplating getting another set of them in walnut for my living room, because when I put them on the stands, my wife was so impressed. And not only was she happy with the way that they looked, and the blonde wood doesn't go with the aesthetics that we have in that room, it would have to be walnut, but she, a person who is not into audio, noticed a distinct difference in audio quality. And to be fair, the Emotiva B1s are $250 and these are $2,000. Like, they are 8 times the money. And I understand that. But in both cases, I had a subwoofer. In both cases, I had the same amplifier. In both cases, I had the same source. So at that point, we're only talking about the performance of the speakers. And they're crossed over at 80 hertz, so the subwoofer was taking all of the low end off. So really a 5 1/4 should be able to give a 6 1/2 a run for its money in that type of situation. Like, that test was skewed for the B1s to do as well as these do, because where these should excel is the low frequencies, below what the 5 1/4 inch woofers in the Emotivas could display. But they're just so well-rounded and so much less fatiguing. And that is the big thing, the one big thing I want you to take away from this review. You can listen to these all day long and not be sick of them. I've been out here, it's 6 o'clock at night, I'm recording this video. I've been out here since 9 a.m. and I've been listening to music all day, the entirety of the day, album after album after album, all kinds of different music. I listen to blues, I listen to rock, I listened to like a bass mix with my kid earlier today, just a variety of different things. And these play everything so well. And they are not at all something that makes you wish that you were no longer listening to music or want you to switch sources, switch speakers, switch anything. They're just so good to listen to for hours and hours on end and just keep wanting more. So I find them remarkable. I think they're excessive, but I also think, why not? Because literally everything we've done in these garages is excessive. The sonic cabinets, the bend pack quick jack, the Swiss Trax flooring, thousands of dollars in detailing supplies, it's all excessive. And these are in line with that excess. They are not overkill, but they are just excellent and very functional and very good to use and listen to. So anyway, I'll post a link in the description. I'm very happy with them. I think really good mates for them are the Schiit Vidar or the Emotiva A2 amplifier and the Bluesound Node. The Bluesound Node is definitely the source to have. I wouldn't do a power node. I think you need more power than the power node can provide. I would prefer something like a Schiit Vidar or an Emotiva A2, something that can do like 150 watts per channel. And then separately, I'm going to do a separate review on the NAD C388. A little spoiler, the node plus an amplifier is better than the C388 all-in-one. I'll talk about that more in depth in that video, but if you're on the fence, if you can do a C399, that's probably the way to go. But the 388, specifically that product, is not. And I would rather own the Bluesound Node and the Schiit Vidar for $1,500 than own the C388 for almost $2,000. It's a better a better system at the end of the day. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, post them in the description, or if you have any questions, post them in the comments. And I'm also going to put a link in the description to Obsessed Garage, where the Dynaudio speakers are carried. If you buy them, it gives me a small kickback. It's like 5% I get back on your purchase. It doesn't cost you any additional, but it does help me and supports me. I will say in this year, I've done a lot of reviews. I've talked about a lot of different products. I've spent quite a bit of money. The YouTube channel is not making nearly as much as what I'm spending on this. So the more support that I get from people like you, the more products I can afford to purchase, which means the more better things I can review, and get into higher end products and talk more about some of those things. So I hope that we're going to have more stuff coming up in the future. There will be a NAD C388 review coming up in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. And until then, thank you for watching, and hopefully you'll have a great day.